I want to talk about Concord. I wasn't going to ever talk about this game again because who really gives a shit? However, and I don't do journalism really anymore, as you guys know, and we talk about this a lot. I was a journalist at one time, and I used to break a lot of stories, and these days I don't really grind like that. So the stories that I break these days are usually people, always, not usually, always people coming to me. And someone who worked on Concord reached out to me, and I verified who this person was and went through all of that and talked to this person extensively.
What? Did you say pause?
I said, no, sorry. I said, a source.
Oh, okay. Colin's been around for a long time. He used to work at IGN, but he got canceled.
Yeah, he's one of the only good people that came out of IGN.
Yes, and now it's interesting how he's excommunicated from the group, and they don't want to associate.
Fun fact:
yeah, that's what Greg Miller and them. Yeah,
this right now is Secret Symbols.
Greg Miller's a piece of shit.
Yeah, this right now is Secret Symbols is the biggest PlayStation podcast in the world, and yet PlayStation doesn't formally consider them that they even exist because of the fact that Colin is not, with the whole gaming.
So he made a joke once and said women are quiet during a day of silence. He said a day of silence on some women walking away day.
He said, finally peace and quiet, a day without women.
It's a fucking dad joke.
And then all of the what are the kind of
all the kind of funny people just whipped out knives and put them right in his back.
I lost respect for everybody there, man. That day radicalized me. It's probably the reason why my channel exists, because of that one day.
It was really fucked up because Greg Miller and him were like great friends, and like when Greg Miller had cancer, Podcast Beyond, and when Greg Miller had cancer, like he was helping him out and stepping up and helping make sure he was still getting his work done. And Greg Miller just took a long knife and put it right in his back. It was really fucked up to see. Greg Miller is a piece. Greg Miller is a giant piece of shit.
I'll say this about Greg. I know Greg. I haven't talked to him in a long time, since pre-2020 and everything that's happened in society and such. But Greg,
I'm sure he'll ghost you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he probably has wants nothing to do with me now because I'm evil and bad and all that stuff. But when you look at, he's always been nice to me, at least since the last time I spoke to him. But when you speak of the toxic positivity, I think Greg Miller is, and kind of funny as a whole, is the toxic positivity.
Yeah,
right,
100%.
And that is just as bad as the toxic, masculinity or whatever that they rail on. It's the exact same thing. It causes just as many issues. So, the difference is that they are, they're funded by their audience, but man, oh man, do they get them sponsors? I'll tell you what, those sponsors come in, they come in hard. So,
even though their views are not good, which is very surprising.
I wonder if times are changing with the pendulum swing on that.
Well, kind of funny is Patreon ran. I think they have a lot of backers still. That's how the views.
They do, but Last Stand Media is
way bigger.
The most backed anything game wise on Patreon, which goes to show you that Colin on his own is doing better than all of them combined, basically. Which is, I watched Kind of Funny for Colin. So when Colin left, I was kind of
I stopped watching him too. Yeah,
that's got to burn them. They got to be peeved off about.
Well, because it's just like Craig said, it's a bunch of yes men, toxic positivity. Like no one's going to disagree with one another because if they do, then they'll get canceled by someone else.
I was about to say it does piss them off, Smash, because I remember, I think they were answering questions in a Q&A or something, and somebody brought up Colin that what's that Tim guy? What's his last name?
Tim Geddes.
Tim Geddes. He's like, well, Colin abandoned us. He just abandoned us. Well, yeah, because you guys all stuck knives in his fucking back.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's awful.
So they actually see him as abandoning them, I guess. And it's like, well, you shouldn't have stuck a fucking knife in his back and made him write a apology letter. Do you remember that?
Yeah. If Kind of Funny stuck behind Colin Moriarty,
Kind of Funny
would be massive.
But they wouldn't have those sponsors, and Greg wouldn't be hosting all kinds of shows and award stuff all the time.
Yeah, because the thing is that Colin was the only voice on the panel that was actually different. It was a bunch of guys who were all the same, and then he was the only one that was different. That's why everybody liked him, right? Because he actually has something to say.
They don't want
exactly.
Yeah, a variant.
So, like I said, PlayStation doesn't even recognize them, probably not because they don't want to, But because if they do recognize Last Stand Media as the biggest PlayStation podcast,
then they'll
get
start
attacked.
getting slandered by kind
Exactly.
of all their
And
friends.
I think
it's just the
if
witch hunt.
Yoshida was still around, they would recognize him because he was. I think he's still.
Shuhei's still at PlayStation though. He's just
but
working
he's
more on
not.
indies, I believe.
He's not. He's not a higher up anymore. I don't think he's there for. I think advice and shit, just to do his own thing.
Let's just pray one day that Herman Hulse gets replaced because my God, the stuff he's been doing with PlayStation lately is just not good. That's to say the least.
The one advantage they have is they have no fucking competition. I have that pulled up. Xbox is being outsold 3-1.
Yeah,
I can confirm that via the pre-order numbers that I see. Yeah, PlayStation's killing Xbox right now.
It's only a matter of time
Why
before
would
all the Xbox games come to PlayStation.
Why would anyone buy an Xbox when all their first-party games are
all
on
on PC?
Anyway?
It's funny. I say this in videos, and Xbox fanboys, you have no idea. It all looks better over here in an evil PlayStation. That they have
It makes no sense. Like,
well, the thing is with Xbox, the reason why it's failing, besides the fact that it has no identity anymore, is that their entire consumer base has been kind of like nurtured to not buy anything.
PlayStation does it right. They're going to put it on PC, but you got to wait 2 years. You want to play our games, you can get them on PC, but you got to wait 2 years. They make their console relevant.
I reckon
Okay,
PC
because they'll put a game out on PC and the sequel comes out on PlayStation. So, you really liked it and you want to play it? Well, I guess you're going to have to buy a PlayStation unless you want to wait. People are saying we're gargling PlayStation's balls. Okay. Well, we're just speaking reality and facts.
It's just the facts of like.
If you're gargling PlayStation's ball, give us like 10 minutes and you'll notice a very different.
I'm an Xbox. I'm an Xbox person, and I haven't bought a new Xbox. I've still got this old piece of shit here, and I've just converted to PC. Like I'm on Steam. Like that's where you'll find me playing games now.
It's just if you've got a PC, you don't need an Xbox. It's just
that's right.
Yeah, like I'm a console peasant, so I still play on PlayStation, but that's mostly just because like I can't be bothered to deal with the whole PC side of things. Like I'm just chimpanzee brain for that shit, so I can't.
Craig's got to get out of here. So it's
Greg.
Hey, appreciate it, guys. It's fun chatting with you guys tonight. Thanks for letting me talk arcades and stuff. We're closing in on 100K, baby. We'll see there soon. Hopefully, you guys have a great night. We'll see you guys later.
You're gonna get it soon. I'll see you on Monday.
See you on Monday, buddy.
Hey, buddy. All right, let's start going through this and see what they have to say. I'm sure most of us have already listened to it, but
yeah.
For a long time. Ooh. And got some, I think, interesting information that I can share about Concord. And I think people will be interested about it. The reason that I wanted to talk about it is because some of the assumptions that I had made about the game were dead wrong as far as how much it cost and how much Sony really lost on it. So the big thing that you really need to know here about this is that Concord cost about $400 million to make.
Oh my God.
And the story goes that
real quick, when I made my video talking about how it was estimated up to 200, I had people in my comments calling me out saying I'm being ridiculous. There's no way it was even close to 200. So just keep that in mind as he says.
I made a public estimate a couple of streams ago. I said about 350 mil for 8 years.
I think it was over here. We said they probably lost 200 million. And that was, I thought that was probably right, but no.
You gotta understand, it's
way
8
worse.
years. It's 8 years of work on top of the $400 million budget. Like, yeah, people got paid.
That's more than
for
4
work,
times the
like,
budget of Ghost of Tsushima.
Insane.
Wow.
I got a whole list that has those numbers ready to go after we watch this.
The studio was purchased, right? So you have to take an
undisclosed amount. But
well, yeah, but if the game was projected to be the next Star Wars and they were going to do a $400 million budget for it, then you know that the purchase price of that studio is, if they were bad negotiators, $100 million. If they were good negotiators, anywhere up to $600-700 million, right? And that was probably a stock swap. So not, with Sony stock. And there were probably additional payouts based on the performance of the game. If that's how these things are typically structured. I'm not saying that it was this way, but that's a lot of money, and Sony wants that money back. And the way they're going to do it is they're going to try to do a tax write-off. They're going to close this studio and get it off their books, and take a one-time charge. And it's not looking good.
Did they actually say that it's going to be the next Star Wars?
Yeah, you're going to hear
That's
it.
insane.
Oh, do you think, real quick before we keep going on this, do you think Firewalk makes it to October?
No. I think before
I gave it
happens,
6 months.
They'll be gone.
I gave it 6 months before, but now that I'm seeing this, I think they're cut by Christmas. They're gone.
No. I'm saying October.
October?
I'm saying 10 days. Do they have more than 10 days?
It takes a little time to do
that. That's what the past weeks have been. It's a little time. How much more time are they going to have there?
Yeah, you got to get through legal. You got to get through HR.
We're going to find out soon because people are talking now.
Mm-hmm.
People are talking now. The fact that
there's a lot of people that work at Firewalk. A lot.
Yeah.
Like over.
I saw that when you went over there. I think you went over their LinkedIn, right?
Yeah. They're like 150 or so. I was like, damn.
They'll want to do it before the end of whatever their fiscal year is. So whatever Sony's fiscal year is,
that's coming up.
It's going to be before that.
Yep.
Wow.
At Concord, by the time Concord was, so in the first quarter of 2023, Concord had basically entered an alpha state. This was before Sony had even purchased the team. But Sony had been working with Probably Monsters, which was the original owner of Firewalk and Firewalk.
How good are they feeling? They got all the shit taken from them and made money off of the sale.
Probably since late 2020, maybe 2021 at the latest on Concord. The game was in development before that. Up to the point that the game went into alpha state, they had already spent about $200 million on it. And it's unclear how much of that money is from Probably Monsters and the original investors into the game and how much of that money was from Sony. There's this term in product development, not only with games, but really with everything. You can like manufacture a tchotchke. You guys might have heard of it. It's called minimum viability or a minimum viable product. Mm-hmm. The idea behind this, or MVP, the idea behind this is that this is like what you're trying to achieve. And it's like, once you cross this barrier, you feel comfortable selling it. It's not that it's the best it can be or that it's what it's going to be by the time you launch it, because there's all sorts of extra stuff you do to it. But like, this is the minimum viability of the product. When the game had already had $200 million spent on it and was basically in an alpha form in quarter one of 2023, from that point until the game launched, Sony spent another $200 million on it. The scuttlebutt behind the scenes about Concord is that the game was in a laughable shape when it was shown, and basically like when the alpha was ready to go and they were kind of being like, we're ready to kind of get moving towards getting this thing out in the next year or two. It was in such horrible shape that Sony felt like they needed to spend that much money again. So, 200 plus 200 to get the game to the MVP status, not to the status of it being like a great game, to get it to just viability. And that at that time in quarter one, 2023, there was nothing done. Like a major expense was having to urgently outsource much of the game to other studios to finish.
That's really weird. Like, why would you put 200 million back into Firewalk, the studio you just purchased, but yet then you decide you're going to outsource it? Why? That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, they're saying that most of the 200 million went to outsourcing from this video, right?
Well, from what we understand,
back into Firewalk, and
from what we understand, Concord, they were basically, banking on this game becoming this like cross media thing, right? Like it has a whole episode in the secret level Amazon.
Yeah, I was about
show.
to say, you see that.
God knows what else it has, right? We don't even know what else is going to happen with it.
Comic books.
Yeah, exactly. Like we don't know.
There probably was going to be, because
they
you can see the ambition they had with it, because I guess they were going to have weekly, highly well-made videos of where these characters are and what they're doing. Look at that one they made. Remember that one they made for the award show or whatever, that CGI trailer? Like that looks like an expensive trailer. Like they were going to do that every week.
Yeah, they even had those. They had 2 or 3 animations that they released on the PlayStation YouTube channel that looked like, like proper animated, like CGI styled, like shorts, basically. Like those aren't cheap. And
you think
again,
these
the secret level thing.
You think the executives
there's millions to do those shorts.
You think they saw the Sonic movie and the Mario movie doing gangbusters, and they're like, we need that.
I think they probably were like, we need something to compete with Fortnite, and we need something that's like family friendly ish. But then they were stupid, because if you want to compete against something that it basically has like the kids in a vice grip, you should not release something that has a price tag attached to it.
Mm-hmm. We also have like up to 40 properties in either pre-production, active production that are based on video games. And I think we're going to see real soon whether or not video games are really the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, like you'll see later on in this
comes to movies and television.
Yeah, you'll see later on in this thing where Colin says that there's some games that Sony has in development that are even more expensive than Concord, which is just like, I can't even fathom what the hell they're spending that much money on, because I mean, I don't know.
I meant movies and television shows based on video games, but yeah, like the whole thing is they want to make it like across the board.
Also, to put this in context too, just so everyone knows, there was a leak, the Insomniac leak. Spider-Man 3 apparently has a budget of $350. So Concord costed more than the eventual Spider-Man 3. But anyway, there you go.
We'll see how that game does too. I
am not looking forward to that.
I'm going to skip
the whole Concord thing, and I'm sure you guys already mentioned this part, but that was because, Sony paid for what they had already spent, plus they had to basically revamp the entire game, from what I heard. So yeah.
If you look at the evolution of Mary Jane in these Insomniac Spider-Man games, she's probably going to transition into a man in the third one.
Or a wheelchair.
I don't understand why the budget for Spider-Man keeps getting so exorbitant when they have all the assets already basically created and the graphics haven't changed. It's just basically adding stuff to the missions in the city, unless it's going to be in a completely different place.
Marty Jane.
It's very weird how so many games these days are so exorbitantly expensive and take forever to get made. And again, like you said, like they reuse assets, but then you have like Ryu Studio over there making the Yakuza Like a Dragon games, and they're making like a new one every single year, and there's no way the budget's anywhere near that, right?
It's a Twitter bloat. I mean, look at
100%.
Look at Elon Twitter firing, most of the company, and it runs fine. I mean, we ran BattleNet, which supported so many users on like 4 developers. And Valve used to talk about the ratio of how much money they make versus how many devs they actually employ. And that's around the ratio you should have. You should be shooting for that. There are these digital fiefdoms being built up. These teams are bloating because department leads want power, and this happened at Blizzard, and we talked about this with my friends at Blizzard. Everyone's hiring to have a bigger team so that they can have more political say within the company, and you get these massive amounts of bloat. Ubisoft has 18,000. They had 20,000. They did a bunch of layoffs. They have 18,000 developers, and their market cap is what, 1.3 billion. And you've got Nintendo, which has like a tenth of that, and they're outperforming them 40 to 1. $40 billion, right, market cap. So
I mean,
there is tremendous amount of waste in AAA, and a lot of it, I'm sorry to say, are these DEI purple-haired activists that sit there sipping their lattes and enjoying the free meals and the free yoga sessions and sitting there talking about inclusivity in design.
That's why they hate you so much, is because you call it out and they're like, no, this is a good life for me. Stop it.
It's a cushy life, and they all work remote now, and they do even less work. And now that's changing, and they're very, very mad because the economic conditions shifted. The layoffs started happening last year, and this year the gamers are pounding them by only buying games that are good because everyone's holding on to their money. They're not going to buy crap, and the jig is up, and they know what's happening, and everyone's fed up. And so
I would argue that it's not just gamers are buying games that are good. Gamers are in tune to the signals and propaganda, political messaging being pushed in games. So even if the game does have good aspects, there's a lot of gamers, especially in my comment section, that are just like, I'm just not buying that game. I don't care if that's a fun I'm not buying. I don't want to participate in any of this. I don't want to buy that game. And that's starting to affect these companies And like Flash said, we'll get into it eventually with that employee saying how they're not hiring ex-Sweet Baby Inc. employees because it's just a bad look all around.
It's an instant. It's like a death kiss.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like to call them Sweet Baby Death Kiss.
I mean, look at God of War, right? Like God of War 2018 came to PC, 71,000 concurrent players. God of War Ragnarok just came to PC, has like 31,000.
Mm-hmm.
People know the Sweet Baby's attached to it, so they're like, I don't want to play that shit, and they're not.
The Sweet Baby effect.
Yep.
And then
I saw that article.
Like and they're trying to act like, oh, it's fine, don't worry. Like people will still buy it. It's even though Sweet Baby's attached to it, it's fine. It's God of War. If God of War is like God of War, which is pretty much like, let's be real, that's like the most premier Sony IP there is. Like Kratos is like, he's like the Super Mario of Sony. Like, let's be real, right? Like, it's what he kind of
though.
is. So.
Didn't they kill him?
No, he's alive. He's fine.
I didn't play the second. The first one I loved. I thought the one that came out, the first one with him and his kid, that one was a great time. I didn't play the new one.
The new one was not directed by Cory Balrog, who did the one you're talking about. Apparently, he's working on some kind of like new IP that's sci-fi with like a female main character or something. I mean, maybe we'll see it at the Game Awards. I don't know, but he did not direct God of War Ragnarok, and it shows because Ragnarok just felt like they were rushing to the finish line when there was so much to still explore. And I made a whole video about this like 2 years ago about why God of War Ragnarok is disappointing, and I stand by it. I think that game was just a massive waste of potential on every level.
I got a super chat here that Rhino will like. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure for 20. With all of the inclusivity being pushed in pop culture lately, what are the odds that in the new Star Wars Rey movie, she will have a fat black lesbian in a wheelchair as her apprentice?
It's probably true.
Do they have wheelchairs in the Star Wars universe, Rhino?
Not that I've seen.
Well, we could have a first then, the first wheelchair.
I was going to say, not yet.
It doesn't make any sense to have wheelchairs in that kind of a world because what you would think they have like bionic exoskeletons you could have.
I mean, look what they did to Luke's.
Yeah, or like surgery that actually fixes whatever the problem is.
Like, couldn't you just get in a Bacta tank and get all this fixed?
Right.
Yeah, but Bacta tanks aren't available to everybody, I guess. I don't know.
The Rebellion had one. They put Luke in it.
Yeah, no, but all you need now is Bacta spray, and like that'll fix your broken cranium.